Imagine looking out your window, right? You're taking in the warm sunshine and realizing that the summer you are currently enjoying has lasted for 7 uninterrupted years.
Which is just, I mean, it's mind-boggling to even conceptualize.
Right, totally. Like, if you're a child in this world, you have literally never seen snow. You've never felt a freezing wind. But hanging over your entire existence, woven into the very, the fabric of your culture, is this terrifying ancestral promise.
Winter is coming.
Exactly, winter is coming. And in this world, winter doesn't just mean a few months of bad weather and, like, shoveling your driveway. It means a darkness that can last a generation.
Yeah, and it brings things out of the ice that haven't been seen in thousands of years.
It's terrifying. So whether you're a longtime fantasy fan or just insanely curious about epic world building, today's deep dive is custom tailored for you.
Because it really is the ultimate case study in world building.
Oh, absolutely. We are looking at the foundational excerpts from George R.R. Martin's sprawling universe in A Game of Thrones. And the mission of this deep dive is to unpack a very specific, incredibly volatile intersection.
Right, that collision point.
Yeah, the collision of ancient, world-ending magic, deeply ingrained generational trauma, and, well, cutthroat immediate political survival.
Because it completely rewrites how a society functions, right?
Right.
When the planetary axis or, the magical laws of your reality dictate that seasons are unpredictable and potentially endless.
Which is just wild to think about.
It is. Every single political decision, every harvest, every alliance carries this massive existential weight. We are dissecting a realm where a fragile political piece is being hollowed out from the inside by human ambition.
While simultaneously being threatened from the very edges of the map by supernatural terrors. Terrors that the people in power absolutely refuse to believe in.
They just bury their heads in the sand.
Yeah. So, okay, let's unpack this. Our sources drop us right into the freezing, terrifying deep end, beyond the massive 700-foot-tall ice structure known as the Wall.
Which is quite the opening scene.
It really is. We are riding with a ranging party of the Night's Watch. We've got Will, Garrett, and their wildly arrogant, aristocratic commander, Sir Waymar Royce.
Sir Waymar is just a piece of work.
Oh, totally. Now, anyone familiar with the lore knows what happens here. They run into the others, the ice monsters, and it's an absolute massacre. But let's look at the actual anatomy of this ranging party.
Right, because it perfectly illustrates the rot at the heart of this society's defense system. The sociology of this three-man patrol is basically a microcosm of the realm's decay.
Yeah, the Night's Watch used to be this elite order, right? The shield that guards the realms of men.
Exactly, but look at who is actually guarding the Wall now. You have Will, who's a former poacher. He only took the black to avoid having his hand chopped off for stealing meat. And then you have Guard, a grizzled veteran who represents, like, the absolute last dregs of institutional memory. The guy has spent 40 years freezing.
Just a hard life.
Oh, incredibly hard. And leading these two hardened men, is Sir Waymar Royce, an 18-year-old knight.
Who is treating a desperate scouting mission in a haunted forest like, I don't know, a fashion show.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Us wearing gleaming black ringmail, soft leather, and this magnificent thick sable cloak. I mean, he is the youngest son of an ancient house with too many heirs. He was sent to the Wall, not out of some noble calling, but because his family didn't have any land left to give him.
And his presence there really exposes the dangerous illusion of the modern Night's Watch. I mean, he has the armor, he has the castle-forged steel, the pedigree, but he has absolutely zero understanding of the environment he's in.
None at all. When Will and Garrett tell him the woods feel wrong, that the wildlings they were tracking are all dead and frozen solid.
Which is impossible, normally.
Right, because the Wall was literally weeping water just days prior. But Waymar relies on the logic of the civilized world. He actually mocks them.
Yeah, he uses basic Southern logic to deduce that it can't be cold enough to freeze grown men. And, his logic is perfectly sound.
In a normal world.
Exactly. But in a world where magic is waking up, logic is a lethal trap. So they go back to the camp and the bodies of the wildlings are just gone.
Vanished. So Will climbs this massive sentinel tree, Garrett stays with the horses, and Waymar comes face to face with the others. And the source text gives us an absolute masterclass in horror here.
It really does, because these aren't the lumbering, decaying zombies you see in, standard fantasy.
No, not at all. They're an entirely different, terrifyingly elegant species. The other that steps out of the shadows is described as tall, gaunt, hard as old bones, with flesh pale as milk.
And what's truly alien about them is their armor. It seems to change color, reflecting the snow, the shadows, the dark trees.
Like this metaphysical camouflage.
Yeah, they don't stomp through the woods, they glide silently. They are essentially the physical embodiment of the freezing cold itself.
And we have to talk about the weapons, because Waymar actually stands his ground. He fights bravely.
He does. He doesn't run.
Right, he meets the creature in single combat. But when his beautifully crafted, castle-forged carbon steel sword clashes with the other's blade, we get this auditory detail that just changes everything.
Oh, the sound is haunting.
The other sword is a shard of translucent crystal. It's so thin it almost vanishes edge on. And when the blades meet, there's no normal ring of metal.
No, the text says it sounds like an animal screaming in pain.
Which is just horrifying.
It is. And that scream, it's the sound of human technology completely failing against ancient magic. Waymar is fighting with the absolute pinnacle of Westerosi metallurgy, and it is entirely outmatched.
Because the crystal sword is what, super cooled?
Yeah, it shatters Waymar's steel through sheer, unnatural thermal shock. It shatters the blade, and it just slaughters the boy.
It's cold, silent butchery. And Will is watching this from the tree, absolutely paralyzed with fear.
Understandably.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But the horror peaks when Waymar Royce stands back up. His fine clothes are in tatters, his face is ruined, but he rises with a blind white pupil and eyes burning with an icy blue light.
It's the ultimate confirmation of an existential threat. The dead are literally walking.
Yeah. And this brings us to a massive, jarring thematic shift, because the narrative takes us from this undeniable, horrific reality of magic beyond the wall straight to the rigid, honor-bound human reality south of the wall.
Right, we shift to Winterfell with Lord Ned Stark.
Ned Stark, yeah.
Yeah.
Who is in the middle of executing a deserter from the Night's Watch. And that deserter is a man driven completely mad by seeing the very ice monsters we just discussed.
It's such a tragic irony. And Ned brings his 7-year-old son, Bran, to witness the execution.
Which is pretty intense parenting.
A bit, yeah. But Ned doesn't employ a royal headsman. He uses his own ancestral sword, this massive Valyrian steel blade named Ice.
Because Ned's core philosophical tenet is that the man who passes the sentence should swing the sword.
Exactly. He teaches Bran that if you're going to take a man's life, you owe it to him to look into his eyes and hear his final words. And if you can't do that, the man doesn't deserve to die.
It's a highly decentralized, really personal view of justice. Ned believes a ruler who hides behind paid executioners forgets what death actually is.
Yeah, he's actively rejecting the sterile, state-sanctioned violence of the South. But if we analyze the mechanics of this scene, I mean, the irony is just staggering.
Oh, it's huge.
Ned is executing a terrified man who is genuinely trying to warn the world about an impending apocalypse. But Ned just dismisses the others as fairy tales. He insists they've been gone for 8,000 years.
And here's where it gets really interesting to me. Think about the tool Ned is using to carry out this execution.
The sword.
Yes, ice. He's denying the existence of magic while literally holding a magical weapon.
It's so true. Valyrian steel isn't just high-quality iron.
Right, the lore tells us it was forged in the lost empire of Valyria, using dragonfire and blood magic. It's a metal that remembers its edge, that never dulls. It is lighter and stronger than anything physically possible in nature.
So Ned is using a remnant of ancient fire magic to execute a man who saw ancient ice magic, all while telling his young son that magic is dead.
It's wild. That psychological dissonance is, I think, the defining tragedy of Ned Stark. His rigid adherence to human law and his own inflexible code of honor completely blinds him to the shifting paradigm around him.
Absolutely. He is an excellent tactical leader, right? And a just lord for a predictable peacetime society.
Sure, in peacetime he's great.
But big picture leadership requires the imagination to recognize when the fundamental rules of the game have changed. And Ned just lacks that imagination. He processes the world strictly through duty and treason.
It's like a political leader facing a massive, unprecedented crisis, like a suddenly shifting tectonic plate that threatens to swallow the entire continent, and their response is to strictly enforce local zoning ordinances.
That's a perfect analogy.
It makes you wonder, does Ned's strict sense of honor actually make him a terrible big-picture leader?
You can certainly make that argument.
Because the universe immediately sends him a blaring cosmic siren warning about his blind spots on the ride back to Winterfell.
Oh, direwolf.
Yes, the discovery of the direwolf pups. They find this massive mother direwolf dead in the snow.
And direwolves are essentially Pleistocene megafauna. They're legends. They're the ancient sigil of House Stark, and they haven't been seen south of the Wall in 200 years.
Yet here's a dead mother, and Ned reaches into her throat to pull out the cause of death. A shattered stag's antler.
Which is just, I mean, come on.
A stag. The sigil of House Baratheon, the royal family. The mother direwolf leaves the isolation of her natural northern habitat, travels south, and is killed by a stag.
You really don't need a degree in literature to see the billboard-sized metaphor here.
No, it's flashing neon. It foretells the absolute doom of the Starks, leaving their northern domain and intertwining their fate with the Baratheons.
But Ned, true to form, sees a bizarre zoological anomaly. He does not see a warning.
Right, he initially wants to put the pups out of their misery.
Yeah, and it's only when his bastard son, Jon Snow, points out that there are exactly 5 pups for the 5 true-born Stark children.
Robb, Sansa, Arya, Bran, and Rickon.
Exactly. It's only then that Ned yields. And then, of course, Jon finds a 6th pup, driven away from the litter, an albino pup with white fur and red eyes.
An outcast, which Jon claims for himself and names him Ghost.
Right. So we have the North willfully ignoring these huge supernatural threats to focus on local justice and ancient traditions.
But while they are staring at the snow, a different, incredibly immediate danger is marching up the King's Road right to the gates of Winterfell.
King Robert Baratheon.
Yeah, King Robert is arriving, and he's bringing the entire political weight of the capital with him.
And the arrival of the king's retinue is a brilliant exploration of the decay of power. I mean, moving a royal court in this pseudo-feudal society is a logistical nightmare.
Oh, it must be awful for the local economy, too.
It's just devastating. It's hundreds of knights, a massive wheelhouse for the queen, golden banners, and this entourage that literally ints its way through the countryside. It's a huge projection of massive financial and political power.
But the reality of the man at the center of all this pageantry is, well, it's deeply depressing. When King Robert vaults off his horse, Ned barely recognizes his oldest friend.
Because Ned is stuck in the past.
Right. He's remembering the peerless, muscled, 6'6" warrior who smashed a dynasty to pieces 15 years ago with a spiked iron warhammer. A man who smelled of leather and blood.
And the physical reality of Robert Baratheon today is the physical manifestation of his failing kingdom. He's gained, what, 8 stone?
Yeah, a massive amount of weight.
He's red-faced, sweating profusely through these expensive silks. He's hiding a massive double chin under a coarse beard, and he just smells heavily of perfume and wine.
He's a man who was built for the clarity of war, but is utterly suffocating in the nuance of peace.
Exactly. And before he even greets his host properly, like before the dust is even settled, Robert demands that Ned take him down into the dark, freezing crypts beneath Winterfell.
Yeah, Robert wants to pay his respects to Ned's sister, Lyanna. And Lyanna was betrothed to Robert, but she died 15 years ago after being taken by Rhaegar Targaryen, the crown prince of the previous dynasty.
The journey down into those crypts is just suffocating with symbolism. They are walking past the statues of the old kings of winter.
With the iron swords.
Right. These statues have iron swords laid across their laps to supposedly keep their vengeful, brutal spirits at rest. Because the Starks of old weren't just honorable lords. They were ruthless conquerors who subjugated an entire massive continent.
So Ned's modern version of honor is actually a relatively recent, sanitized construct.
It is. But Robert isn't interested in history. He is entirely trapped in his own personal mythology.
He touches Lyanna's statue and tells Ned that he dreams of killing Rhaegar every single night. And let's remember, Robert already killed Rhaegar.
He caved his chest in at the Battle of the Trident 15 years ago.
He won the war. He won the Iron Throne. But he is still fighting that ghost every single night.
Because this entire political apparatus is built on unhealed grief. Robert explicitly admits to Ned that sitting the Iron Throne is 1,000 times harder than winning it.
Yeah, you can't hit a tax crisis with a warhammer.
Exactly. He is hiding from his trauma in wine, feasts, and hunting. He's perpetually trapped in the mindset of a wronged level and a rebel hero. He never evolved into an administrator.
He's like the ultimate tragic figure of peaking too early. It's like the high school quarterback who won the state championship, and now, 15 years later, he sits at the local bar in his varsity jacket, running the highlight reel in his head while his actual life falls apart.
That's a brutally accurate way to put it.
And so Robert has come north to ask Ned to be the hand of the king, which is essentially the prime minister, the guy who actually runs the country, because their old mentor, Jon Arryn, died suddenly.
And Robert's request is layered with so much desperate psychology. Yes, he genuinely needs an honest administrator to run the bureaucracy while he drinks himself to death.
Right.
But on a deeper level, he is trying to assemble the old team. He wants to drag his best friend south to recapture the camaraderie and purpose of their youth.
He even proposes uniting their houses, right? Marrying his 12-year-old son, the Crown Prince Joffrey, to Ned's 11-year-old daughter, Sansa.
He's trying to artificially recreate his lost future with Lyanna.
But Ned's instinct is to refuse. He hates the South. The South is a graveyard for House Stark.
We cannot forget the generational trauma here.
No, it's crucial. Ned's father, Rickard, and his older brother, Brandon, went south to answer the Mad King, Aerys Targaryen, and Aerys had them brutally murdered.
Burning Rickard alive in his armor while Brandon strangled himself trying to save him, it's horrific.
It is. So the isolation in the North isn't just a preference for the cold weather. It is a defensive posture against a political system that literally incinerated Ned's family.
And Ned feels that foreboding instantly. Because while Robert is living in the ghosts of the past, Robert's wife's family,
The Lannisters.
yes, the Lannisters, they are ruthlessly, unsentimentally focused on the present. Queen Cersei, her twin brother Sir Jaime of the Kingsguard, and their younger brother Tyrion.
They represent the absolute pinnacle of Westerosi hard power.
Unimaginable wealth from their gold mines and this deeply pragmatic, almost sociopathic approach to politics.
Which brings us to the catalyst that blows this entire fragile ecosystem apart. In the dead of night, Ned's wife, Catelyn Stark, receives a hidden message.
And the paranoia surrounding this message tells you everything you need to know about the political climate.
Yeah, it comes in a carved wicker box with a Myrish lens, but hidden in a false bottom is a tightly rolled paper sealed with the blue wax of House Arryn.
It's a coded letter from Catelyn's sister, Lysa, who is the widow of the recently deceased Hand of the King, Jon Arryn, and the message is a geopolitical earthquake.
Lysa claims that the Lannisters murdered her husband.
And this letter triggers a massive strategic argument between Ned and Catelyn, which perfectly highlights their contrasting backgrounds.
Because Catelyn is a Tully from the Riverlands.
Right, a central region constantly ravaged by wars. Her family words are family, duty, honor. She understands the brutal calculus of soft power and alliances.
So she looks at this letter and insists that Ned must accept the position of Hand, and he must betroth Sansa to the Crown Prince.
Her strategic logic is rooted in deterrence. If Ned refuses the king, Rogging will feel insulted, the Lannisters will suspect the Starks know about the murder, and Winterfell will be politically isolated and vulnerable.
Right.
She believes Ned has to go south to protect the king, investigate the murder, and lock in a royal marriage to shield their family with the ultimate political armor.
Hold on, though, because Catelyn's logic seems fundamentally flawed to me here.
How so?
It's like a whistleblower dropping a bombshell memo into a corporate boardroom, revealing that the board of directors is actively assassinating executives.
Right, okay.
And Catelyn says Ned must go south to protect Robert from the Lannisters. But Ned literally reminds her that his father went south to answer a king and came back as ashes.
Yes, he does.
So why on earth does Catelyn think Ned, a man who refuses to employ a headsman because of his rigid moral code, can outplay people who are actively assassinating the prime minister?
You've hit on Catelyn's fatal blind spot. She projects her own political understanding onto her husband, and she projects conventional feudal morality onto the Lannisters.
Oh, I see.
She believes that because the Starks are morally right, and because Robert loves Ned, the institution of the crown will protect them. She fails to realize that the Lannisters do not care about the rules of the institution.
They're playing a zero-sum survival game with no moral floor.
Exactly. And the sources provide a horrifying, immediate demonstration of just how deep that moral floor drops.
Because while the adults are arguing about grand strategy, 7-year-old Bran Stark is doing what he does best, climbing the ancient labyrinthine walls of Winterfell. He's a prodigy, scrambling over the gargoyles of the abandoned First Keep, and he pulls himself up to a window and he sees something that shatters the entire reality of the Seven Kingdoms.
He witnesses Queen Cersei and her twin brother, Sir Jaime Lannister, engaged in a sexual affair.
The Queen of the Realm and a sworn knight of the Kingsguard.
It is high treason, it is incest, and it completely delegitimizes the royal bloodline.
And Bran panics. He slips and ends up dangling from the window ledge. Jaime Lannister leans out, grabs Bran's arm, and hauls him up.
And for a split second, you think the knight is going to save the child.
You really do.
Yeah.
But Jaime asks Bran how old he is. Bran says 7. Jaime looks at his sister, says, "The things I do for love," and casually shoves the boy out the window to plummet to his death.
Things I do for love. That single line is a thesis statement for Lannister politics.
It's chill.
It is pure, terrifying utilitarianism. James doesn't push Bran out of malice or anger or sadism. He calculates in a fraction of a second that the life of one northern child is worth less than the lives of himself, his sister, and their children.
It is a mortally vacant, entirely rational decision from a man who operates completely outside of Ned Stark's deontological rules-based ethics.
It perfectly proves why Ned is walking into a wood chipper. Ned's honor cannot process a political opponent who will casually murder a child before breakfast to protect a secret.
So Bran falls. His back is completely shattered, and he falls into a deep, seemingly endless coma. Catelyn sits by his bed for weeks, just descending into madness, refusing to leave.
And as the High Lords and Queens scheme and murder and maneuver for power, the sources subtly shift our focus.
Right, to the people that this society has discarded.
Exactly. The contrast between the individuals holding systemic power and the outcasts relegated to the margins is a central pillar of this universe.
Because feudal society is built entirely on clear lines of inheritance and rigid social hierarchies. If you don't fit perfectly into that machinery, you are crushed by it.
We see this brilliantly illustrated during the royal welcoming feast at Winterfell. Inside the Great Hall, the king and the High Lords are drinking on a raised dais. But Jon Snow, Ned's illegitimate son, is explicitly barred from sitting with his siblings.
Yeah, Catelyn insists he be seated on the benches in the back with the squires, terrified that his presence might offend the royal family. A bastard is essentially a walking glitch in the feudal system.
And Jon feels that humiliation acutely. He drinks too much, his anger boils over, and he leaves the warmth of the hall.
And outside, in the freezing dark of the courtyard, he encounters the ultimate outcast of the Lannister dynasty.
Tyrion, the dwarf.
Tyrion is the intellectual heir to his father's massive legacy, but his physical form makes him an object of scorn in a society that values martial prowess above all else.
And Tyrion startles Jon by literally vaulting off a ledge, displaying this unexpected physical agility. And the conversation they have is one of the most philosophically dense moments in the text.
It really is. When Jon defensively asks what a Lannister could possibly know about being a bastard, Tyrion delivers a line that defines his entire worldview.
All dwarfs are bastards in their father's eyes.
It's such a heavy line.
Tyrion understands that society's labels are weapons. He gives Jon a profound piece of advice on how to survive as a marginalized figure. He says, "Never forget what you are, for surely the world will not. Make it your strength. Then it can never be your weakness."
Armor yourself in it, and it will never be used to hurt you. It's a masterclass in psychological armor.
It truly is. Tyrion uses his immense wealth, his voracious reading, and his razor-sharp wit as a shield against a world that despises him.
He is telling Jon that he has to own his trauma, or the world will constantly use it against him.
And Jon is desperately trying to find an institution where his bloodline doesn't define him. He decides he wants to take the black and join the Night's Watch, believing the propaganda that, on the wall, a man gets what he earns.
But before Jon leaves for the freezing desolation of the wall, he goes to say goodbye to the comatose Bran, and Catelyn is there.
And Catelyn's hatred of Jon is this complex, deeply ingrained trauma. He is the living, breathing proof of her husband's infidelity, an incredibly painful anomaly in her rigid worldview.
She looks at this 14-year-old boy who is leaving his home forever, and she tells him, "It should have been you."
It is a moment of breathtaking, unfathomable cruelty.
She's weaponizing her own generational insecurity and projecting it entirely onto a child who had no say in his birth. It completely cements Jon's status as an exile.
But Jon does have moments of genuine connection. He has a beautiful farewell with his younger sister, Arya.
Arya is an outcast in her own right, isn't she? She rejects the restrictive gender roles of a highborn lady. She hates needlework. She wants to fight, to explore.
And Jon understands her spirit. He has the castle blacksmith forge her a small Braavosi-style sword perfectly balanced for her frame.
He gives her the sword and delivers the most practical lesson in combat. Stick them with the pointy end.
And Arya names the sword Needle. It's a deeply touching moment of solidarity between two misfits who refuse to let the society dictate who they are supposed to be.
If we follow this thematic thread of outcasts, we must look across the narrow sea to the free city of Pentos in the east. Here we find the ultimate exiles.
The last survivors of the overthrown Targaryen dynasty. Viserys and his 13-year-old sister, Daenerys.
They have lived their entire lives on the run, suffering from paranoia, poverty, and the constant fear of Robert Baratheon's assassins.
And Viserys is completely consumed by delusions of grandeur. He's obsessed with reclaiming his throne. He has sold off every family heirloom, earning the mocking title of the Beggar King,
And he's willing to sacrifice absolutely anything to get his crown back.
including his sister. He treats Daenerys not as family, but as currency. He brokers a deal with Magister Illyrio to sell Daenerys to a terrifying Dothraki warlord Khal Drogo.
The Dothraki are this nomadic, hyper-militarized society where wealth is measured in horses and slaves.
Right, and Viserys wants Drogo's army of 40,000 riders. He explicitly tells Daenerys that he would let the entire army violate her if that's what it took to get his throne.
It is systemic, horrifying abuse. Daenerys is terrified. She's bathed, dressed in sheer silks, and presented like a prize mare.
Her wedding takes place out under the open sky, surrounded by 40,000 Dothraki warriors, drinking fermented mare's milk, fighting to the death, and eating roasted horseflesh.
She is utterly isolated in an alien culture. But during this wedding, she receives a gift from Magister Illyrio that changes the trajectory of the entire world.
3 petrified dragon eggs from the Shadowlands beyond Ashai.
Illyrio presents them as beautiful fossils turned to stone over eons. But the lore of Valyria tells us that dragons are fundamentally tied to blood magic.
And Daenerys has a prophetic dream before the wedding. She dreams of Viserys striking her, waking the dragon, and then she is entirely engulfed in a great fire.
But the fire doesn't burn her, does it?
No, it cleanses her, and a dragon turns its molten eyes toward her.
So we have the ice magic of the others waking up in the furthest north, and we have the dormant fire magic of Valyria stirring in the blood of an exiled girl in the Far East. It's a fascinating dynamic.
It really is. These characters, Jon on the Wall, Tyrion navigating the deadly politics of his family, Daenerys surviving the Dothraki Sea, they are the ultimate underdogs.
It's like finding a roster of generational talents who have been relegated to the bench permanently just because the league doesn't like their pedigree.
And that ties perfectly back to Tyrion's advice. Make it your strength. The adults in power, Robert, Ned, Catelyn, they are clinging to old rules, old traumas, and old systems.
Robert drowns his grief, Ned rigidly adheres to an inflexible code, and Catelyn trusts institutions that are actively being corrupted.
They are failing to adapt, but the outcasts, they have no institutions protecting them. They are forced to adapt, to weaponize their marginalization just to survive.
They are the ones actually evolving. Which brings us to the grand, tragic irony of this universe. We've looked at the full board of this incredibly precarious game.
You have the high lords and queens obsessing over who gets to sit on an uncomfortable iron chair in the Capitol.
They are maneuvering, backstabbing, and starting devastating civil conflicts over local power.
They are fighting over the steering wheel of a ship that is heading directly into a metaphysical iceberg.
That's beautifully said. The human drama is violently compelling, but it is dangerously, fatally small-minded when juxtaposed against the apocalyptic threats gathering at the edges of their maps.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener?
Yeah.
What is the ultimate takeaway from a world where the diagnostic landscape of right and wrong is this murky?
It's a lot to process.
It is. I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, and it brings us back to the direwolves. We established how intimately connected the Stark children are to their wolves.
Jon's wolf is the silent white outcast, Ghost. Arya's is named Nymeria, after a legendary warrior queen who led her people across the sea. Sansa's is the gentle, perfectly domesticated lady.
They are perfect reflections of their owners' souls. But then we have Bran.
Bran, lying in a coma, his legs shattered, entirely disconnected from the physical world.
His unnamed wolf sits outside his window in the courtyard, howling day and night. The humans in the castle hate the noise. They throw rocks at it. They try to chase it away.
But Tyrion Lannister, the man who notices the things everyone else ignores, makes a fascinating observation before he leaves Winterfell.
What does he see?
He points out that when the Master closed Bran's window to shut out the howling, Bran's heart weakened. He started to slip away.
Oh, wow.
But when they opened the window and let the sound of that primal, relentless howling back into the room, Bran's heartbeat grew stronger.
It forces us to ask a profound question about the nature of survival. When human laws fail, when steel shatters against ice, and when the political institutions you trusted try to murder you, what do you rely on?
That's the real question.
Could it be that the true magic the Starks need to survive the long night isn't found in their ancestral swords, or in the clever political marriages Catelyn is trying to arrange in the South?
I think there's a strong case for that.
Could the key to their survival be this deep, unspoken, ancient connection between human and beast? Because when the rules of the world change overnight, and the civilized charts no longer make sense, you can't rely on logic.
No, you have to learn to listen to the howling in the dark.